What's up, guys? Back to make another video. Thank you for liking, commenting on the last one. Sorry for some of those late responses. Hopefully you guys, I know some of you guys were commenting, helping each other out. Just perfect. Keep doing that because we're all just trying to find a better job, maybe local, maybe on the road. Share your experiences with the companies you've worked at. So I came off the road with Cypress, came to a local beer company, which distributes beer for Miller Lite. I worked there for probably 8 months doing the whole beer gig. Pay is like the number one thing everyone obviously wants to know about. What's your paycheck look like? So they ran their pay scale off of commission, right? So you have your daily base pay, then you can get your plus your commission. How they started though was 17 an hour is the training pay, which is very laughable, having a Class A CDL, and I was very upset about that for a while. But the commission worked $126 a day. Then anything up to 300 cases on your truck is going to be 6 cents a case, and then after that is 30 cents a case. So if you go out with 400 cases, you do the math. What it pretty much boiled down to was if you had a big route or not, which you don't know if you're going to go into a beer company. You show up at a great time like one of my buddies did. He ended up getting an easier, heavier route with some bulk stops, and his commission was always high. I did not luck out, and I had a small route, so small pay. I probably made, when I finally got moved to commission, probably, I think after taxes, my bigger checks were like $750 a week, and my small checks were like $600 and something. So obviously not too much pay going on there. And this all depends on the company you go to. I've heard some of these beer companies pay more money, so up to like 29 an hour, 28 an hour, whatever that is. I would say the biggest thing though when you go into a delivery job is realizing that you're touching every case in the back of your semi and working that. And beer is a lot different than like the food aspect, which I'll talk about here probably on my next video. But delivering beer, it's a whole process, right? So you get you have an E-Jack, at least where I was, and I was a C-store guy, which meant gas stations mainly. So get the E-Jack to take your pallets off the truck, get on your lift gate, ride down, stage it in the parking lot, then get your push cart, pump it up with your foot, push it in the store, and then that starts the whole check-in process. So now once we're in the store, we have to wait on whether that's a gas station person working, the owner of the store, whoever wants to do that. You're kind of at their hands at that point. There are times in the morning when it's super busy, you have all your blue-collar boys, your nurses, your whoever and everybody that's going to stop at a gas station before work to get the coffees, their snacks, their food, whatever, right? So there were times I was sitting in a gas station for 45 minutes before I even got checked in. And if you're on commission, you're on hourly. So that can be really frustrating. And then once you're getting checked in, it can be a whole process. Getting checked in there is a pain because you come in with these pallets. It might be 4 pallets. I've had 4 or 5 pallets going into a Wawa, and they like to scan, they have to scan every case. So now you're dealing with touching a case. You might touch a case 3-4 times before you're even getting it in the cooler, because you have to dig to the very bottom of the pallet. You're moving this beer around just to get the scanning bar that they can hit with their scan gun. So the whole check-in process is probably the slowest part of working beer, and dealing with the customer. Then after that, you're literally stocking everything and you're rotating. That's an expectation, right? Is stock and rotation, which companies typically are going to look at. Is this guy back there stocking right, or rotating right? Or the customer's going to see that and they're going to complain if you're not doing your job right. So there's another aspect. You have to think about, when you're doing beer, knowing the product as well, like where it goes into a store, And, it takes time to learn product. You think, oh, I drink beer. I know, that was a thought I had. But, with all the new seltzers out there, all the new flavors of everything, you really have to, learn it. And the only way you learn is by doing it. There's times you go in there and you're like, I don't even know where everything goes, but, you got to figure it out. Another aspect is singles. Singles take forever. So, if singles like 24 ounce, any of your cans, right? So you're stocking all those, then whatever didn't go up, you're putting together with those 24 ounce cases that didn't go up, then you have to take that into back stock. So you may be in one cooler and back stock's in another. So now you're putting everything back on pallet and pushing around, going to that back cooler and restocking everything. So that aspect of beer, you're touching cases a lot. You might be pulling cases off the shelf to put the new cases behind it, if you're doing your job right. So just realize if you go into beer, it's a lot of touch. You're touching freight and you might be touching it 3-4 times before you're done touching it, And if you do that at every stop, your 400 case day just turned into you touched 1,200 cases. So there's good days, easy days, light days, heavy days. You kind of get the hang of it. If you get set in a route, you can rock and roll that way. So another aspect I wanted to talk about too is that you may not be like me coming out of the back of a 36-foot trailer with the lift gate and the E-jack and the push car. So I had the easy job in beer. There's a whole another aspect of beer where you have the side loaders, those guys you see with the doors that go up and down. You pull up and down. There's 2 levels to them. So you may just pull up to a stop because I'd worked with guys on these routes. You've got half barrel kegs, the big kegs on the top shelf, and you're gonna pull those down. If it's loaded right, it shouldn't be that way. But that there's days you're gonna run into that. You're dealing with the slim kegs. You're dealing it's crazy. And you're putting those on push carts and going back and forth. For example, my buddy Jason. Been on his route with him. You might have 15 kegs going into a bar plus cases of beer. So it's not just like your trucks only has kegs on it. You might do 15 kegs and 75 cases of beer at that one stop. So the side loaders have the toughest job. I'll never sit back here and say that I had it the worst, because I did not have it the worst. The side load guys have it way worse. So I would say really think about that before you go in. You could be going in for a beer job and the only thing they have open is a keg route. So now you're slinging kegs all day when you thought you were going to be doing something like I was doing. So my advice would be to make sure, before you get that job, that it's clear what your job's going to be in beer. There's not a ton of money in beer in general. You'll hear that from a lot of people. I experienced that. You're not going to get rich doing beer. You'll get home doing beer. You're not going to get rich doing beer. It does not pay like the food service industry pays, or other local jobs that you don't have to touch anything. So think about that aspect. It's hot. It's a workout. You're going to lose weight most likely doing that job. There are other companies that do pay more than what I was experiencing. I've heard of some companies in Florida that pay like $29 an hour to do it. So even then, I don't think it's worth $29 an hour for the work, because it's just a lot. It might sound crazy to hear that. That's my opinion, though. You can argue that all day. Maybe it is for you. It's not for me. I got out, and like I said, in my next video, I'm going to talk about the food service industry, which I think is way easier. It pays a ton more money. You don't have to deal with the headache of getting checked in and stock and rotation, all that good stuff. So I hope this helps you guys out some. If you have any questions about anything, probably going to be on here soon talking about food service, because that is, spoiler alert, what I'm doing now. I work for US Foods now. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, say whatever you want. If you're a beer guy, it'd be cool to hear from you, see your experience if you were with a different company. I was with SR Parat. That was the company that I was with in Ormond Beach, Florida. So I know there's Daytona Beverage down here. That's, Daytona Beach. And then I know there's plenty of other distributing companies out there in Florida, so they might be better. But thanks again, guys, for watching, commenting, and liking. I appreciate it, and I'll be back here shortly with the next video for you. And be safe out there, guys, on the road, and best of luck to all you and your next adventure, potentially.